Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered what actually separates the elite athletes who completely shatter under the weight of a devastating injury from the ones who somehow miraculously rise right back up from the ashes? Well, today, we're unlocking the psychology behind major sports comebacks. It's a wildly fascinating look at how the human mind can literally override the body, and we're going to break the whole thing down for you.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're pulling today's insights straight from Ryan P. Parker's incredible book, The Comeback Code: 10 Legendary Athletes Who Turned Injury into Triumph. Parker meticulously maps out the shared DNA of sport's most impossible recoveries. And honestly, this isn't just a sports story, right? It's a complete blueprint for human resilience. The takeaways here are absolutely game-changing. I want you to picture the scene for a second. You've got a roaring stadium, tens of thousands of fans absolutely screaming, the energy is electric, and then a fall. Parker writes this incredibly haunting line about this moment. They say the silence is always louder than the snap. Just think about that visceral contrast. The stadium completely hushes. It's like time folds in on itself. It's this profound, chilling instant where a player's entire universe, their whole purpose just vanishes in a split second.
Which brings us to Section 1. The anatomy of collapse.
You see, those initial moments right after a severe injury, they're actually way less about the physical trauma and so much more about a profound psychological shock. We throw the term career ending around a lot in sports, but what does it actually mean? Well, Parker points out that it's rarely just the medical diagnosis that ends a career. It's the invisibility. It's when an athlete literally disappears. The sponsors vanish, the media stops calling, the team quietly just moves right on to the next rookie. It's that total, absolute loss of identity and relevance that truly ends the script.
And this brilliantly illustrates the immediate crossroads every injured athlete faces: collapse versus transformation. Now, collapse is actually kind of seductive, isn't it? It offers the comfort of an excuse. The world sympathizes, the pressure instantly drops, and you don't have to be exceptional anymore. Transformation, on the other hand, that demands painful, utterly unglamorous motion without a single guarantee. It means dragging yourself through 1,000 tiny humiliations just to even try and rebuild.
Let's move into Section 2, the invisible mental battle. Because the real fight, it's not out there under the bright stadium lights. It's the quiet, lonely, completely agonizing battles happening off-camera in these sterile rehab rooms. Just listen to this quote from an injured gymnast who was sitting entirely alone in a training dorm cafeteria while her team competed. She said, "I didn't feel like a gymnast, I felt like an afterthought." Man, imagine that for a second. Imagine losing the one single thing that defines your identity, your entire sense of who you are, and suddenly feeling like a ghost in your own life. That's the real trauma at play here.
Take NBA superstar Paul George, for example. Millions of us watched his horrific leg break on live television. But his true battle was rebuilding his confidence, while the sports media just relentlessly speculated about his downfall. You know, the media always wants a movie montage, a quick, clean, triumphant return. But George had to navigate an absolute minefield of private doubts. We're talking shooting jumpers completely alone in empty gyms late at night, desperately trying to convince his own brain to trust his body again.
Which naturally leads us to Section 3, defying the medical timeline.
Here's where we meet those rare athletes who just flat out refuse to accept logic, data, and conventional medical wisdom. Take a look at running back Adrian Peterson's unbelievable ACL rebellion. On day 1, the surgeons predicted a standard 12-month recovery. They thought, hey, maybe he'll return for the playoffs the following season. But Peterson completely refused to wait. By month 9, he made this incredibly aggressive, mathematically impossible return to the field. And let me be clear, this wasn't some fun Hollywood training sequence. This was a tedious, painful, absolutely defiant rebellion against the clock.
Now, what's really interesting about this specific number is what it represents: 2,097. That is the exact number of rushing yards Adrian Peterson racked up in that post-injury season. He didn't just come back, he completely dominated the league, proving that his mind, his sheer refusal to accept the script he was handed, literally beat his own biology.
Let's jump to Section 4, the art of reinvention.
The core thesis of our explainer today is that the absolute most legendary athletes do not return as their old selves. That past version, it's gone forever. Instead, they adapt and transform into someone entirely new. Check out football player Santi Cazorla's unbelievable rebirth. Step 1. He suffered a severe foot infection that literally risked amputation. Step 2. Doctors had to perform this gruesome surgery, grafting skin from his forearm, skin that actually had his daughter's name tattooed on it, directly on his heel just to save his foot. And Step 3. He somehow returned to Villarreal, playing with this unreal, newfound grace. It just hammers home that greatness isn't about untouched perfection. It's about the absolute willingness to be broken down and rebuilt.
We see this exact same mindset in Formula One driver Robert Kubica. He shattered his arm in a horrific rally crash, which led to nearly 10 different surgeries. When he finally made it back to F1 8 years later, driving a race car at insane speeds with essentially one good hand, he said, "I don't drive to prove people wrong. I drive to prove myself right." He literally had his steering wheel redesigned to fit his asymmetric body, proving that adaptation becomes an absolute superpower when you finally surrender your old script.
It's the exact same story with Kevin Durant. Returning from a ruptured Achilles wasn't about dominating in the exact same explosive way as the old Kevin Durant. The rebuild Kevin Durant had to find a completely new rhythm, a new harmony with his altered body. He stopped chasing the ghosts of his past and remade himself not in spite of the injury, but truly because of it.
And that brings us to our final section, writing your own comeback. Parker's book makes it so clear these stories aren't just reserved for elite athletes. They connect directly to the everyday adversities you and I face in our own lives. So the crucial point is the shared DNA of resilience. What connects all these impossible comebacks? It's a deep loyalty to the process over the outcome. It's redefining your identity without relying on the old metrics of success. It's surrendering that past script, fully accepting the ugly, tedious daily work when absolutely no one is clapping for you, and choosing to act long before certainty arrives. Because true resilience, it's completely unphotogenic, and it is born in the shadows.
And this applies to literally everyone. Parker shares this incredible story of a divorced woman in her 50s who is watching a marathon runner finish a race on a prosthetic leg. Seeing that gave her the courage to finally walk into a night class she'd been dreading. She said, "If he could push his body through that kind of reinvention, I could survive basic algebra and a room full of strangers." That is the power of these stories. Seeing someone go from completely broken to standing tall gives shape to hope in our own lives.
So I want to leave you with this question to really think about. What story will you write next? Injury, loss, failure, they all drop you at the exact same door. You don't control the fall, right? But the comeback? That is a choice. It is not a coincidence. You have to stop waiting around for fate and finally give yourself permission to begin your own reinvention.
Are you ready to write your own comeback? You can unlock the code to your own reinvention by grabbing Ryan P. Parker's incredible book. Just go to the link https://mybook2/nc-05-024. Seriously, it's a massive game changer. Remember, you can't undo the break, but you absolutely get to write the ending. Will yours be a tragedy or a triumph?